Yeah, there was a noise there in the background, and we want to make sure that you don't have any noise going on when you come in.
Live.
Good afternoon, this is Leo Gilling. I'm coming to you from the studios in Miramar. This is the Leo Gilling Show on a Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. It's about 8:01 p.m. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining the show here. Oh, this evening we have a plethora of guests on the Leo Gilling Show. This is the fourth in the series of coping with COVID. And this evening we have our topic is food security in the era of COVID. The fourth in the series of COVID, coping with COVID, and it's put on by the Jamaica Diaspora Taskforce Action Network, and also by the Jamaica Diaspora Agriculture Task Force. And that task force is led by chairperson, Miss Kimon Gooden. She's our technical director this evening, so you'll get a chance to hear her later on. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Just wave and say hi. All right, so just to make sure that we're on the same page, we are on Facebook, so therefore there are going to be questions from Facebook, and later on we'll take some of those questions. I want to welcome everyone from Facebook. Good evening, Facebook people. Good evening. And this evening we have, as I said, a plethora of guests, and I want to start from my personal left to right. I want to say welcome to Dr. Carrie Wallace. Dr. Carrie Wallace, could you come on board and introduce yourself for us and tell us what you do? 30 seconds.
Hi, Leo, and hi, listeners and viewers. Good evening. I'm here in Kingston, Jamaica. I am the executive director of the Tourism Enhancement Fund, and tourism plays a big role in developing the supply chain of agriculture for the tourism market, and so that's why I'm here and happy to share some of what we're doing and some of my insights.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Next in line is Mrs. Mary McLaughlin. How are you, Mary? You gotta unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm Mary McLaughlin. I am with Trees That Feed Foundation. Our mission is to plant fruit trees to feed people, to create jobs. However, today I'm speaking about container gardening. So that's what I'll be talking about later.
All right, great. I'm looking forward to that. Container gardening. Good evening, Miss Donnet Baptist. Is it Baptiste or Baptist? Donnet?
Hi, Leo. Good evening, friends.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? It is Baptist, like the church, like John the Baptist.
Oh.
Hi, I'm well. And I'm joining you today from Fort Baptist Farm, a local farm here in the Finger Lakes region, upstate New York. Hi, upstate New York, folks. Big shout out.
Where in upstate New York is that?
Upstate New York, man.
Oh, Lord of mercy. All right, cool.
North of Manhattan and south of Syracuse. Today I'll be talking about farm to table and farm to fork.
I am actually looking forward to that too. Thank you so much. Miss Maxine Simpson, she is in the middle of Jamaica, center of Jamaica in Matney. Where's Maxine? Maxine, unmute.
Good evening, everyone.
There you go.
I would first like to take this opportunity to thank the organizers of this evening forum under the theme Food Security in the Era of COVID-19. It is a forum that is timely, important, and relevant, and please, it's a pleasure of mine to view on this subject matter. My name is Maxine Simpson. I am the CEO for the Matney Farmers Market. The farmers market is a market that allows farmers to sell their produce on a day-to-day basis. I am a trained teacher by profession, specialize in beauty services, work at Cross Keys High School in Manchester. I am also a registered farmer, and I am an assessor, do assessment for Hartrust NTA. I am very passionate about farming, having been exposed to farming at a tender age by my father. Good evening, everyone.
That's, Carrie, when I left your office December 24th, we went to the center of Jamaica to see Maxine, and she cooked on her farm all kind of stuff for us. So, you know, you're almost connected.
I know, you left me out of that. I can't believe it.
Yeah. All right. Next
just
on.
a top business, and then when it's time for feasting, I'm out of it.
Next time.
Okay.
All right. So next on board is Dr. Terence Johnson. Terence.
Hello,
Terence.
can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, man, we can hear you quite clearly.
Okay, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Terence Johnson. I'm here in the Western US, Las Vegas, Nevada, to be specific. And, you know, I'm from the Western part of Jamaica, Sablamar. I grew up there and went to mining school. And from there, I went on to the Jamaica School of Agriculture.
Oh,
And, yeah, old farmer, JC old boy.
yeah.
And
Yes.
from there, I went to the University of the West Indies, where, you know, we call ourselves hermits. So if any hermits out there, big up the hermits. And subsequently, University of Guelph, and then finally finish up at Virginia Tech. I'm an environmental scientist by training, but I'm here to talk about goats tonight. I've been raising goats from I was a kid, from Yago Mannings. I raised goats until there was a hiatus up when I left Jamaica, but I'm, you know, back raising goats again. So I'm here to give some information about that.
I am very interested in that. Goat farmer. Good. Well, goat person. All right. Next on board, Mr. Richard Harris. And that sounds like a very rich person's name. That name sounds familiar. Richard Harris.
Well, I'm not the famous movie star, Richard Harris, but I'm in the company of very famous people like Mary McLaughlin, you know. So I must be doing something well. Hi guys, thanks for inviting me to the program, and I'm here to discuss coping with COVID. It's a salient topic, but just to introduce myself, I am the husband of one wife and 2 boys, and I'm involved in agriculture and agro processing as well, because I do both farming. We farm 511 acres in the Shedwood Park area of St. Catherine, and we do also agro processing, where we manufacture a line of herbal teas, and we also do a line of spices like Scotch bonnet pepper powder, that kind of thing, scallion powder. We also do a line of oils like Jamaican black castor oil as well as moringa oil, and we now are pursuing a new line of products, which is flour, based on Mary's insistence and encouragement. So we do like all of these flours like cassava flour, breadfruit flour, plantain flour, and so on. And that's basically my take.
Your expertise. Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Richard Harris. Last but definitely not least, I must tell you, Dr. Bobby Smith. Bobby, tell us where you're from and your expertise.
Yes, thank you, Leo. Good evening to everyone, to the viewers. Thank you to the organizers for inviting me to participate on this panel. Again, my name is Bobby J. Smith II. I'm a sociologist and assistant professor in the Department of African American Studies at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I'm located about 2 hours south of Chicago. My background is in sociology and agricultural economics and food systems. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. I grew up there. I went to Prairie View A&M University, historically Black college in Texas for my undergrad, and did my master's and PhD at Cornell University, also in the Finger Lakes region where Fort Baptist Farm is located. And I'm excited to be here. In my research agenda, our current research agenda examines the ways in which Black communities in the United States organize and strategize around food security concerns in both historical and contemporary contexts.
Great. I'm staying with you, Bobby, because I had the first question for you. That's why I say you're last, but not you're not the least. In your field, tell us what it means. What does food security mean and food sovereignty? Tell us what this means.
Right. So in thinking about this panel today and thinking about conversations around food security, I thought about one of the first times the term food security comes on a scene, if you will. And food security first comes out as a definition in around 1996 at the World Food Summit, where there's a definition where a group of scholars and a group of academics got together to think about what does it mean to achieve food security? What is food security on a global scale? Again, this is the World Food Summit. And the World Food Summit defines, I'm going to read the definition for you. They define food security as when all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. That's a lot going on in that definition. But essentially what the World Food Summit was trying to capture, trying to do, was trying to have an all-encompassing definition of food security. But what happens with that definition is that it's widely accepted, but when you transpose it into a community context, food security looks different. Some people see food security as access to culturally appropriate foods. Some people see it as access to nutritious foods. Some people see it as farm to table, farm to fork. So for me, food security as a definition is flexible in that it's context dependent and community specific, but what it seeks to do is essentially what it seeks to do is ensure that everyone, whether it be in a community, in a state, or a country, has access to nutritious, safe food at all times.
That's great to hear. I'm going to come back to you because you're not done yet. I'm not done with you yet, Bobby. All right, when I'm going to come back to you, I want to go to Dr. Wallace. Dr. Wallace, I met with you last October, and you told me about a program, a linkages program. And I want to understand what is food security to you in respect of linkages and tourism, being tourism enhancement fund, the chairman of tourism enhancement fund.
Okay, so what we do with the linkages program is that knowing that we have a market of visitors who are there on island, 4.5 million tourists came to Jamaica in 2019 calendar year. We recognize that they will need to consume. They're on the island to experience the island. So they'll eat, they'll drink, they'll, be entertained, that kind of thing, go to events, go to attractions, that kind of thing. So we have looked at an extensive program of not just looking at tourism as the arrivals and the bodies in the hotels, but to look at the spend and the consumption and making sure that more and more of what the tourists consume are supplied by locals in Jamaica. And that's the way to kind of get the industry to translate into wealth for more of the population here in Jamaica. Agriculture is a clear one that we would look at building out their capacities and their volumes and their consistencies and their qualities and all those things so that they can then supply this huge demand that's there. Because even though it's 4.5 million and Jamaica has 2.7 million eating every day, but 4.5 is for the whole year. Remember, on a holiday setting where it's a lot of the properties are all inclusive, so persons tend to eat a lot more. So the demand per head is substantially more than the average local. Okay. And so that translates into a lot of demand for agricultural products. Unfortunately, a lot is imported. And so that's why tourism has gotten involved. You know, we haven't just left it to the Ministry of Agriculture. We've said, listen, we can't allow this to continue. We have to invest in getting the farmers at a standard and at a level and in some cases just aware of the demand that's there in the tourism sector so that they can start supplying. And we've seen some significant improvements having had that program. When we started out 3 years ago, there was a 30% retention of the tourist dollar. And after all the linkage program we put in, it's now at 40.8% retention. So I mean, we have a far way to go, and I don't think we'll ever get to 100%. I mean, we're gonna, unless we start manufacturing Grey Goose vodka and Samsung TVs and those things, but certainly we can do better, and that 4.5 million tourists brought in close to $4 billion US. But if it's going back out, if that much is going back out, you can see how if we retain more of the tourist dollar, we can create more wealth for Jamaica. So that's it. That's the extent. And these programs that we've done include demand studies. So the information, the knowledge. We find out exactly what type of agricultural products the hotels are demanding. So because of course what is supplied on menus in hotels are kind of different from what the average local will eat. There'll be yaki and saltfish on the menus, yes. But as a token station where if the tourists want to experiment, they can go there and try it, and they say, oh, it looks like scrambled egg. Anyway, the point is we have to look at what the tourists are accustomed to consuming and consuming in volumes. And some of those products are not the normal products that somebody who decides to go into farming is gonna be familiar with, and asparagus or zucchini, or some of these products there, it's novel to the local farmers. So we have 150,000 local farmers who are on less than an acre of farming here in Jamaica. And so that's what we've been working on to provide information of what the demand is about. We've also created an online trading platform where the farmers register on, it's called Agri Linkages. They register on the platform, and they can each morning upload the crops that they have. And the purchasing managers also go on that platform and they can select. So even though if they buy it from Jamaica, they're going to have to work with 10 farmers to get the same supplies that they would if they've just bought from overseas, brought a container in from one farmer kind of thing. At least we've made it easier for them, because that was one of the complaints we got, that they didn't have time to be dealing with 10, 20 different persons. So we said, okay, let's make it be a couple of clicks on the computer. Surely that makes it quite easier. And so in fact, some of the crops that we found that are not necessarily common based on our demand study were strawberries. And we even invested by buying greenhouses and got technical assistance to train strawberry farmers, because of all the crops in the demand study, strawberries provided the best business return of all the crops that you could supply. Of course, a lot of where we had to choose the farmers were from the cooler parts, a lot near the Blue Mountains, and some in Manchester as well. But that has been a tremendous success story. But still, we can't meet the demand for tourism. By the time the strawberry farmers, we bought them greenhouses and we set them off, right? And they planted and harvested and started supplying. And because the quality was so much better, because the strain that they used didn't have to be the one that, because strawberries are very perishable, so they didn't have to be the ones that could travel.
Okay, so it's absolutely
and so
locally used.
Local ones were so much sweeter that they could not supply beyond Kingston. The Blue Mountain guys couldn't supply beyond Kingston They couldn't get to the North Coast because we were bought up by all the Kingston hotels and supermarkets and so on. So they themselves bought another set of greenhouses. So they didn't even come back to the TF. It was so lucrative for them that they bought another set of greenhouses and are expanding. And we TF this year, we're also investing some more with a different set of farmers. In fact, we're taking some of the coffee farmers who were displaced by the fall in prices from Japan and so on. So, but the good thing about tourism is that it's providing what I would say is a first world opportunity for local farmers. If they get up to the standard, the first world standard of efficiency, of even customer service, you know, when they sign a contract and a commitment to deliver a certain volume, they deliver. That, you know, they don't have an excuse, or they don't. You know,
so here's the question that I wanted to think about. I'm going to come back to you. What is the percentage of the local usage by the hotel industry, right, from the farmers? How much of the farmers produce they use in the hotel industry? And then, you know, and that was before COVID, and then what has COVID done in terms of impacting that right now, where we see it going, right? So I'll come back to you on that, because I want to go to the other ones, all right? All right, and so I want to go to Maxine Simpson, because you heard the linkages program, Maxine. You heard Dr. Wallace talk about engaging farmers in the different capacities for the tourism industry. Tell us, how does this impact you, Maxine? What is it that you do, and how is it that you can get, because I know that you have access to a lot of farmers in your neck of the wood, and how can you tie yourself into this linkages program to be effective and be a part of the tourist industry?
Okay. You know, I've tasted a variety of food produce, but none like those grown in the Caribbean. I attribute the fine taste to the weather, you know. On the contrary, yes, on the contrary, however, due to climate change, some countries that used to, you know, be bogged down with cold climate are now experiencing a bit of sunshine, and of course, might just experience the great farming that we produce here in Jamaica. On a serious note, in spite of a great tasting food, you know, in each country, we all need to grow enough for our own people, and also, you know, for the tourist industry. It shouldn't be that we seek food from outside our region when we are in Jamaica and have a lot of acres and acres of land. You know, the truth of the matter is, as a nation, we need to view food security as important as we look at COVID-19. Luckily for us Jamaicans, being a tourist destination, we have always stored food just enough for the natives and the tourism. Having analyzed the ripple effect of COVID, food security is now of great concern. Right? To date, our nation has failed us. As farmers, we are encouraged to continue planting whilst the government promised, you know, to assist in our investment. We are still, you know, not uncertain. In the past, we have experienced both of drought and, you know, the years of different climate change. The fact is, most of us depend heavily on the rain. For years, due to climate change, some months we struggle with drought, sometimes flooding. But farmer, especially for small farmers, is a gamble most time. Most time we lose, you know, an infrastructure arrangement on our farms. Well, prior to COVID-19, the island was, you know, faced with some droughts, but negatively impact our farmers. COVID-19, as expected, the situation, it causes our farmers to suffer a great loss. This the closing of hotel industry caused a disturbance in the market, which saw most farmers having to deal with spoilage and a glut on the market, which bring into sharp focus the importance of urgent need for more, agro processing and storage facilities. If I were to, to advise the Minister of Agriculture, at this time, I would ask Minister to look more into the structure and organization of farming. As a farmer, we are willing to produce if we have secure market certain, as we are certain of attaining remarkable market value for our produce, assist with water in the time of drought and desperate need, in most costs, in cost almost 20,000 to purchase a load of water. 20,000, not 20 million, load of water. Our current, population needs more effective, also attract more women and youth. When decisions are taken of farmers, it ought to be done behind our backs, engage us, consult with us, because we are the ones.
Did we lose Maxine? Oh, Maxine, thank you so much. I heard that very, very loud. You're breaking up a couple of times, but I knew what you were saying, actually. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to come back to you too, because we have some more other questions. Yes. All right. Mary, Maxine is a big time farmer, right? But Mary, over the years, over the past 10, 11 years, has given out to farmers over 200,000 fruit trees across the world. And I want to invite Mary, what does COVID mean to your efforts? I mean, what is it that people can do at this point in time? Everybody can farm, right? Right, Mary?
Yes, well, thank you, Leo. And it's so interesting hearing all of this. It's such a wide berth. Our organization started to look at food security, but kind of long-term food security. Our aim was to plant fruit trees because in the tropics, we are so blessed with good fruit trees. In temperate regions, they have cherries and apples. Those are all desserts. But in tropical countries like in the Caribbean, we have breadfruit, mangoes, pears, all of those things that you could almost live on trees. So that's what we started. Our philosophy was, our thought was, when Noah started to build the ark, it was not raining. Well, with COVID, it's raining now. So, but we have experienced other disasters because we work across the planet. So we've had an experience in Haiti where they had terrible hurricanes, and we do a lot of work in Haiti. And in Haiti, what happens when there's food security stops, there's no food, hurricanes mainly, is that emergency food comes in to feed people, food baskets, giving them food, but that usually ends in 3 months. And we always look at that 3-month period. And we always thought, what can we do? So we continue to plant trees. We are still giving out as many trees as we gave out before, but we're now looking at food security with the greatest people at risk. And that's inner city people, inner city mothers who now have to feed their children. What we think is, as soon as a gift basket people get tired, because you will get tired, we want to look at a way that a mother living in downtown Port-au-Prince or downtown Kingston in the poorest areas can do a little something to feed her family. And what we think we can do, and we have seen this successfully done in Haiti, is you start saving seeds. You go to the market, you buy a tomato. Okay, you scoop out those seeds, you put it on a little bit of newspaper, you dry it, you wash it, you store it a little. You can do the same with pumpkin. You cut open a beautiful pumpkin and you see those wonderful seeds. You take them, you wash them, you dry them, and what you do, you plant them. You plant them in good soil. And how to get good soil. Sometimes it's hard for us to relate to a mother that can barely feed her children thinking about good soil. Well, you can get a container, paint bucket, anything, put some holes in the bottom, put in some compost, some banana peel, some dirt, you mix it up, and you put that pumpkin seed in there, you put it against the grill work, against the fence, and you have a little something to eat. So that's what we're looking at. We know it's important. You let the callaloo go to seed, you take those seeds, you plant the callaloo again. Sweet potato. In Haiti, we have had great success with sweet potato because you get food in 3 months. And I'm looking at short-term food, looking at things that can sustain you and fill your body or just give you a little bit of extra to make your life just a little better. So that's what we do. We see, I'm on phone calls every day with especially the Clinton Foundation, and they're looking at getting food into Haiti. And I think Haiti and the rest of the tropical world has good sun, good soil, hardworking people. What's the disconnect? Right. And that's what we push and we work on every day. But our love is fruit trees and our love is preserving. You know, Maxine talked about farmers having things go to waste. We don't want anything to go to waste because that contributes to food security. Mango season, boy, everybody turned down the pot, right? And then when mango season, a lot of mangoes waste, and then out of mango season, you don't have anything. So we have designed a solar dehydrator. We have about 12 of them, mainly in Haiti. But last week in Jamaica, a woman phoned me and she said, I've been going to Sydney Pagan School and I've been using that solar dehydrator to dry ginger. She says, I have 300 pounds of ginger. Now I'm looking to sell it. So this was ginger that she was able to dry using no electricity, no cost. So hopefully her costs are lower. So then I sent a text to Mr. Richard Harris and say, you want any ginger for your teas? So really that's what we do. It's a simple concept. We do it and we hope that it touches many people and we hope that it helps some child go to bed not hungry. Because to me, that's food security. We spend time in Haiti and we see many children hungry and we never want that to happen. Not if you can plant breadfruit and sweet potato and cassava. So really that is our mission. And Leo, thank you for having me on. Yes. And I am honored to be among all of these worldly people and educated people. So thank you.
I'm so happy to have met you because, you know, I know that the Kimon, the chair of the Jamaica Diaspora Agriculture Taskforce, has been very, very happy knowing that you have already given her some thousands of breadfruit trees for farmers in Jamaica this past month. So we are very, very happy for that. You know, so thank you so much for being Mary.
My pleasure. This is what we do. That's what fills my soul. So
yes.
Thanks.
Richard Harris, good evening to you again. You know, Richard, we talked to a farmer. We talked to Mary, who provides trees. We talked to the TEF, the tourist industry. What is agro processing? You know, for the persons who don't know, like me, may not understand the term agro processing. Tell us what is agro processing and what is it that you do?
It's a very good question. I've never really thought about it, and I'm just doing it and not really delving into the depths of it. But it is really processing agricultural products, you know, and you have different types of agriculture. You have animal as well. So you have meat processing. Those things will be deemed agro processing. For us, we are actually taking raw materials, usually plant-based material, and then we actually process it by sanitizing it and drying it. In our case, we dry powdered form, and we can then bottle package it in different forms, bottling, in pouches, in bags, and bottles, and so on. So for us, agro processing is really taking raw materials such as moringa, in case of Mary, like take breadfruit, and we can actually sanitize that and bring it to a powdered form, and we can package it, and then we can distribute it to the consumer. And it's really usually natural products. So we're talking about hopefully moving away from genetically modified plant materials and so on into. And as Mary, it's what I was listening to Mary, if I may, is that what I'm hearing Mary saying is people need to be enabled, right? And then there has to be this sort of a connection between the farmer, or the person who's processing, to the market. And that for me is I think is the biggest disconnect, and it has been highlighted during COVID. Okay, and I've now seen the RADA and the other different, and the Ministry of Agriculture and so on, now trying to put the parties together, right? The producers with the market, and ultimately to the end consumer. And I think that is that once you work on that dynamic, I think most of our problems will be solved. But how do you get that going on a large scale? How do you coordinate all these different, because Dr. Wallace was mentioning about the same thing. That's the same process that they have employed to get the strawberries to the tourists. And look how that has it's a success story. It's a real success story. And so Mary does a lot of that, right? Sorry if you hear me cannot mention her name, because she's one of those persons who are not, as we say in Jamaica, there's no chat, right? She does. She actually is doing, and she's working tirelessly to make sure that disconnect has been solved. I hear Maxine's heart as well, and so what we're saying is that food security is ultimately, has come to the fore because of COVID. It should not have to wait until COVID to bring this to the fore. And then there's so many persons. Mary talks about inner city. I have my factories in an inner city community of Winterspen in Spanish Town, a once volatile area community which was well known with them and Taskforce and all. People don't even know where Winterspen is anymore. It's no longer in the news for the last 5-6 years, simply because we believe that having been there and employing up to 32 persons now in the community, it makes a huge difference because of the multiplier effect and the shops coming up here and there, and it's really has become such a significant contribution to the community that we now can honestly say that Jamaicans just want an opportunity in the boss. That's all they really want. It's an opportunity. They want people who will come in and help to empower them. Because I can tell you what we have there in Winterspen, in that inner city community, are gems. Sometimes it brings tears to my eyes to see the way how they are committed, or they are very grateful. You have to 1 or 2 takeaways, right? I'm not talking about those, but the vast majority are persons who are, we talk about street smart, boss. Street smart. And we talk about persons being able to use their God-given powers of reasoning outside and thinking outside of the box. Go to the inner city, because they have learned how to survive. They learned how to survive. And I give a quick anecdotal story is that I remember once we were sending off a shipment to Miami. We actually export to 15 countries, right? So and one thing with the export market, especially in the US, there's no, they're intolerant of excuses, right? And here I have as an individual, is at my wit's end trying to figure out how to solve a situation where boxes from the manufacturer were not available. They were behind their schedule, and so we have to send off this in 2 days to Miami. I don't have an excuse to catch a container. And so, boy, we're racking our brain about it. Said, all right, whatever boxes you have available that is close to our sizes, we take it and we try and see what we can do with it. We try to get 24 tea boxes inside there. We couldn't get it. I couldn't get more than 20. And I'm there working and wrapping. We tried all kind of permutations, bringing staff, and we tried to work through. I couldn't work through. And so the next morning I called to say, boy, I'm sorry, but we're not going to be able to make the shipment because we can't get the boxes and explain the situation. And right away, walks in a worker, stops and asks for permission, and I said, hold on a second to my customer. 1 second, and she calls me and said, Mr. Harris, I found out how to do it. And she carries message. I said, wait I said to the person, Claudia, wait a second, I'll get back to you. I'll call it back. And I go into the factory, into the production room, into the packaging area, and here she is packing in the 24 tea boxes into that box, which I thought could never have held it. You know what she said to me? She said to me, Mr. Harris, I did not sleep all night.
Oh, that's nice.
She's in our brain, work through permutations in our brain.
Just to make sure that it get done. That's good.
This is what we have in Jamaica.
Thank you.
There's a plethora of that.
Thank you, Richard.
Opportunity,
that's really, really, really nice to hear. I wanted to for the and you can say yes or no for the audience. Agro processing in my mind. I want to look at breadfruit alone, right? So agro processing, we could get the breadfruit from the farmers, right, and we could just sell it on the side of the street. No processing required. People just go ahead and use it and roast it. The ultimate consumer, right? Processing involves when you get the breadfruit from the farmer, you take it and you make powder, or you make it and make flour, or you make it and make chips, and you package it for the market, right? To either distribute to America or distribute it in Jamaica. That's processing, right?
That's processing, right?
Just want to make sure that we are
good, right?
Yes.
It's down the value chain, actually.
Yes, the value chain. Yes. All right. Great. Thank you so much. I want to go to this young lady from New York. Her name is Dunnett. I want to hear Dunnett. Dunnett has some experience of farming in Jamaica and farming abroad. So tell us how you do that, Dunnett, because you sound like you have the right niche, the right thing to make some money in farming.
I'm not sure about the money, but I'm pretty sure and very confident about my own food security, and I want to be able to pass that on to generations after me and even or current generations now. My interest in farming began, my grandparents on both sides of my family, paternal and maternal, were both farmers. My grandparents who are on the maternal side contributed to Blue Mountain Coffee back in the day. And my grandmother used to take me to the weigh-ins for Blue Mountain Coffee to let me understand the process by which small farmers in Manchester actually contributed coffee beans, which were dried and processed to make up a larger amount of Blue Mountain Coffee at the time. She used to tell me, hey, you really need to be able to pinpoint trees, know the differences in different kinds of mangoes, know the difference between a sweet sop and a sour sop. There's so many exotic fruits that are in Jamaica. A lot of the things that she has taught me, and even my father has taught me, have resonated, and I brought that concept to the Finger Lakes region. When I moved here, I was like, wow, this place is gorgeous. It's got all these waterfalls. There are great lakes around here. The soil is rich. Formerly Native American territory, my husband and I landed on a property here that is just about 60 acres. We do not farm all of it. We keep the majority of it in woodland areas. There are a couple of creeks running into a main creek. We hike through it, but we decided that we wanted to bring both our cultures together on our property. So foods that we could not acquire. I couldn't find callaloo, for example, this far north of Manhattan. I could not find, there are certain Jamaican things that, you just really need to have. He couldn't find collard greens. He absolutely loves collard greens. The only time we saw collard greens in the supermarket was during Thanksgiving. And so we decided, hey, we're going to farm these things for ourselves. And the produce was so much, we started to give it away. And by 2017, they're in the back of my mind, the concept of sharing this wealth, sharing this food, ensuring that my counterparts, my contemporaries, my friends, my community, my people, that they had the foods that they needed. We decided that we were going to start a community shared agriculture process, which is a process that's easily adaptable to Jamaica. And I see RADA doing that on a very small scale. RADA is the Rural Agricultural Development Association in Jamaica, for those of you who don't know. But the community shared agriculture process is whereby shareholders purchase 20 weeks worth of fresh fruits and vegetables from our farm. So they're getting a whole half bushel full of fresh, organically produced fruit, vegetables. We even have poultry, we have eggs from our farm for 20 weeks, and they pay into that. They can come on the farm and they can choose what they might want to eat as well. Maybe some folks don't like, I don't know, I hate to say collard greens, but let me just say, maybe some folks don't like collard greens. So they can come and they can choose, to get more lettuce or more salad mix. We farm a variety of peppers. This is gonna be my second year trying Scotch bonnet in a colder climate. We do a variety of tomatoes. We've even done Japanese cucumbers. And we were doing this in order not just to introduce folks to different kinds of food, but to ensure that the demand for particular ethnic varieties of food, for example, we do a Brazilian eggplant and a Ghanaian eggplant. So getting those from the farm to your table so that you can experiment with the food and enjoy it. And you weren't
finished with the 20-week sharing program. Could you just finish that? Oh, that's okay.
Yeah,
you're getting there. Okay.
Yeah, so that basically is our community supported agriculture process. Because we live in a wintry climate, we only have 20 weeks in which we can actually
farm.
Or farm effectively. So what we've done is we actually have 2 greenhouses, thanks to a USDA grant, but we have greenhouses that our community helped us to build, actually. Our community, in terms of their interest, in terms of what we're doing, they came together, they assisted us, and they're benefiting from that process. So 20 weeks at a price, you become a subscriber, and you get your produce. We even throw in some recipes sometimes for unfamiliar foods, and you enjoy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's very nice. And you also do a farm in Jamaica? You have a farm in Jamaica?
We have land in Jamaica. It's not really farmed at this point, but whenever we're home, we try to put trees.
You plant trees.
We have trees. We try to put down some coconut trees, some breadfruit trees, because there is no real reason why in your backyard, you shouldn't have a couple staple items as Jamaicans. We really should be reducing the cost of our food bill, knowing where our food comes from, and getting our backyard farms going and or supporting our local farmers.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Janet. And farming is not just about trees, right? Farming is also about animals. So we want to hear from Terence this evening. Terence, who he has a lot of goats, and I want to hear from Terence what he does with those goats. Do you do goat milk, or you just sell goats just for meat?
Well, yeah, I do mainly 3 products when it comes to the goats. We sell breed stock. So there are other farmers who want to get into the business and they would buy breed stock from us. We also sell goat for meat. We call those curry goats. So we
call them curry goats.
Yeah. So
that's
we
good.
produce breed stock, we produce curry goats, and we also produce milk. And that's has been gaining some traction in Jamaica as of late, you know. But when it comes to goat production in Jamaica, our goat rearing in Jamaica, and it's more a matter of goat insecurity as opposed to security.
Explain that.
Yes, we produce 20% of the goat meat that we eat.
Okay.
You know, we so within that, so the other 80% comes in, and most of that is usually sheep meat. Sheep that has outlived their useful purpose, which is probably wool in some developed country, or goats which have old goats too. So that 80%, most of that meat that comes in, that is imported, that 80% is of relatively poor quality compared to locally raised goats that can move from the farm to the table. So within that insecurity is a huge opportunity.
Okay. We you know, with farming, with goats, you have some issues. What are the types of problems that you have rearing goats? I mean, you know, tell us. I mean, I know that you have some other owners that you
yes. How much time do you have?
I want to hear. We want to hear them.
Well, first, one of the things you got to do, you know, you got to think it through, right? And you got to protect your animals. You got to protect them from other predators, more especially the one that looks like me and you. You know, so you want to have them in a safe environment at nights where they're locked. You know, and now with technology, you can have cameras that can, you know, the motion, you know, that picks up any kind of motion and can respond to your cell phone. You can see what's going on. You can even do that from abroad. I can be here and I can be looking in on my farm and tell a worker, hey, go pick up that bag that's blowing in the wind. And he'll be like, what are you talking about? I'm like, turn around, you know? So with technology, a lot of barriers to communication has been removed. And
what do you lock them in? I mean, you know, it's to protect them.
You make it's a basic whole house.
Oh, it's a house.
Usually made out of you know, it depends on what your resources, how much resources you could made out of board, or if you want to really keep the other owner out, you in my case I have a house made out of steel. So it all depends on your resources.
Okay.
But it's good to have them locked away at nights for that reason. And also that, you know, during the rainy season, you don't want them to be out there, you know, under the harsh elements like a lot of rain and stuff like that. That could bring on other illnesses that you have to deal with.
Oh, wow, that's very nice. Thank you so much for that.
You manage them too. If you're raising them intensively, where, you know, that's a model we call cut and carry, where you cut the feed and carry to the animals. If you're using the cut and carry model, you're gonna want them in an enclosed space as well to make that workable, as opposed to if you're running them on a range or pasture type environment.
Because sometimes I see people on the road with, you know, pretty much hundreds of goats, and he's behind them with a stick, and I wonder, you know, in my mind, you can only take a goat out to grass or to feed off of, but I didn't think about bringing the food to them. So your setup is mostly bringing the food to the goat.
I run both. It's
Right,
what you
both.
call a semi-intensive system. So they go to pasture, they go out during the day and they eat, and then you cut, you know, you have a truck that I cut feed and also supplement them with grains as well.
Yes, that's
concentrate.
Nice.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much for that. Bobby, I want to get back to you, Bobby, because you're in academia, and I want to see how is it that you, Bobby, from the university, translate your knowledge down to a Maxine and a Terence and a Dunnett. Are you there, Bobby?
Yeah, I'm here. Mhm.
Yes. Tell us how does that how does the academics transfer into a Jamaican situation and for people like Bobby who actually live in Jamaica, or someone like Dunnett who live in Jamaica and want to, how does that happen? You know, how can we do better?
Right. I think for me, when I think about food security and COVID-19 right now, and particularly in the context of particularly global.
One second, Bobby.
Okay.
There's a noise there. Can we mute, please? Yes.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. So when I think about food security in the context of COVID-19, and I began to think about particularly Black people, whether it be in the US or in Jamaica or in other countries where Black people live, I think about vulnerability. I think about how vulnerable Black communities are to these kind of shocks in the world. So if we begin to see COVID or see ourselves as part of a global Black struggle against COVID-19, of this pandemic, we begin to see this dualistic type of struggle. The struggle, one, is for survival for sure, and survival includes resistance against structures and systems that have created vulnerability among Black communities, whether it be, you know, across different geographies. But also what this moment is showing the importance of local food production. But in order for Fort Baptist Farm or Dr. Johnson's farm to be successful in this kind of this kind of context, there's a need for us to support the work they're doing, but also think about social, political, and economic implications of their work. And from an academic standpoint, I do my work in community and thinking about communities in Finger Lakes, New York, thinking about people in Fort Worth, Texas, Houston, Texas, South Bronx, Baltimore, Atlanta, different places, Jackson, Mississippi. And thinking about this struggle is what COVID has shown us, is that not only has it impacted how people move around the world, it's also impacted how food moves around the world.
Yes.
And when we think about this tension between local and a more global transnational food system, we begin to, in so many ways, we begin to think about COVID-19 as this crisis that has exposed those vulnerabilities and exposed the need for local food production. But also what we begin to see is that we need to start thinking about the way in which we depend on imported food. A lot of inner cities, whether it be in Jamaica or in the United States, inner cities depend on imported food.
Yes.
And the minute that food stops moving the way it's supposed to move to get certain foods to people, then there's a conversation about how do we support localized production.
Yes.
But in order to support localized production, we have to then begin to revisit, particularly in a Black context, revisit farming traditions of our ancestors, one, but then two, also revising those traditions to meet the current moment. And so for me, I see using what Fort Baptist Farm is doing. I see using what Terence is doing, Dr. Johnson, Dr. Wallace, Richard Harris, Maxine, and Mary. What they're all doing is different parts of this whole food security continuum, if you will,
Yes.
and chain. But what needs to happen now is for us to begin to organize in ways, so not only are people moving different and food is moving different in COVID-19, we have to also, in the ag and food system, move different as well. It can no longer be production as usual, because once COVID is over, we can't necessarily go back to a same normal, because what COVID has also exposed, my last comment, is that COVID has exposed how unsustainable certain food chains and food supplies and food production models are.
Yes.
And because it's so unsustainable, how do we begin to organize locally and then scale up from there to ensure that we support Black people from Jamaica to the United States to other places within the African diaspora?
Wow, that's powerful. I hear you saying using our ancestors' ways of doing, get back there, because what we were doing before, it's probably going to be down for a while. So get back to planting the way our grandparents used to plant. Excellent. I love that. Dr. Wallace, I had started talking to you a little bit about the amount of agricultural produce that was used prior to COVID, right? Prior to COVID, what it is now, and how are we going to get back on stream, you know, because a lot of the farmers have lost a lot of their produce because they couldn't go to market. They couldn't take their produce to the supermarkets. They couldn't take it to the restaurants. And now they have lost 2 months of work not doing anything. And then we're going to be building back up now for another thought. I don't think we can start building back until probably August, September or so, and start building up for the future. How are we going to get there? What do you see happening, Dr. Wallace?
All right, well, the good news is that we had recognized that farmers are such an integral part of the supply chain for tourism, that during the hunker down period of the pandemic, which we're kind of getting out of now slowly but surely. But during that hunker down period, we stepped in as the TEF to purchase the surpluses from the farmers that were, you know, because the hotels were all closed down and so on. We went in and purchased their supplies, and we then created care packages and gave it to the vulnerable citizens in the resort towns, because the government had provided relief packages for tourism workers who were laid off, and for the ones who were still working. They provided a facility for the hotels to get some supplements to the salaries that they pay the ones still working, which were just a few. But the ones that were laid off, there was a package for them as well. But still, we recognize, we know how Jamaica is. There's a lot of informal things happening in the tourism resort towns that are displaced. No, they got the resort town like Negril. You know, you pretty much don't have any other industry apart from tourism. So even if the Minister of Finance was looking after the formal sector, there was a lot of persons who were displaced and going hungry. And so we thought we would kill two birds with one stone by purchasing the surpluses from the farmers who are in the supply chain, so that they could stay alive and still, you know, still be ready when the time comes for tourism to resume. So we have and supply to the locals to the citizens in the resort towns, and it was well received. And we even gained other benefits. You know, the reputation that tourism had, big man versus small man kind of thing. The fact that we stepped in and we did we got volunteers from the chambers of commerce in the resort towns, Negril, Montego Bay, Port Antonio, and so on, and Ocho Rios as well. And we so we are confident that the farmers will be there because we kept them going. So they will be there by the time we resume, and we're hoping that we'll resume. It won't be too long before we resume tourism again. So, you know, the country depends on it so much, and you know, even just the support that we can lend as a government is limited to how much money the government has, and as the government's revenues have contracted significantly as well, because so much of the economy has slowed down. So the best thing that we can do is get the economy back up, get tourists coming back in, get the wheels spinning again, and everybody can get back into jobs and so on, and you know, we can move forward from here. One of the things I'd like to say about food security, and I see where it is very helpful for all of us to get into kind of a culture of planting a lot and having the trees as Maria was outlined and so on, and that's good. But I wanted to encourage some larger scale investments in farming, some more modernization of farming, some more taking farming as a business and as a big business, so that it supplies the demand that exists now. I mean, when you hear of Dr. Johnson talking about the 80% import of goat meat and so on, it's a travesty in my head. I mean, we should get to a level where we are producing that for our own persons at the efficiencies where the price is competitive and the quality is superior and so on. And that's what we envision using tourism as a catalyst to help to build out capacities so that the production can be at first world
optimal
levels and volumes and so on.
Yes.
Because otherwise the risk is that foreigners may come in and do that, just as they did with the accommodation sector in tourism. It used to be a case where 10 years ago, the 80% of the accommodations were owned by locals. Today, 80% are owned by foreigners, and based on the trajectory, mind you, they've come in with bigger and bigger hotels. Now we're having 2,000 room hotels, which is some serious capital that you have to come in to put those to have those kind of plants in Jamaica, but they come in with that kind of volume demand, containers and containers of produce that they are now importing. And when we say buy local, you need somebody local who can supply at that kind of volume and consistent quality and obviously at good prices, because they would have had the economies of scale that the competing overseas markets have. Because if you think of how the majority of farms are they are big businesses in the first world countries,
But can we afford that from a perspective of Jamaica, since I think we have like 150,000 certified farmers across Jamaica. We have probably 250,000 farmers in general, right? And then would it be sustainable to have bigger farmers, and would that cause some kind of incapacitation to the small farmers who are making a living on a day-to-day basis? Or are you looking that these big farms are going to probably hire more people? And I mean, tell me the dynamics.
Well, what I'm looking at is import substitution. What I'm looking at is export. What I'm looking at is agro processing, a whole agro processing industry.
Okay, absolutely.
Because when you talk about the supply chain,
yes,
of agro process, when you look at the value and the earnings at each level of the value chain, the higher you get to the end of the value chain, is the larger the margins are.
Yes.
The poorest countries in the world are heavily dependent on agriculture.
Yes.
And the wealthiest countries in the world are the least dependent on agriculture.
All right.
That's Switzerland doesn't plant one cocoa tree, but they produce chocolates and they are wealthy from chocolates, and all the countries they buy the chocolates from, when you look at the percentage of the price of a chocolate that goes to Switzerland versus goes to Uganda or wherever they buy the cocoa from, you can see why the ones who just stop at farming only are poor versus the ones who vertically integrate up to agro processing and so on.
Adding value, yes.
Not tomato alone, but producing a tomato ketchup.
Okay, gotcha.
So, and then marketing, building a brand name, and then marketing. Sometimes just building a brand name alone doubles your margin. Absolutely. Because you're now sought after versus somebody, a no-name brand kind of thing. So, absolutely. To me, in my mind, you expand the pie. We're not fighting over slices.
I understand.
Expanding the pie.
I'm glad that you explained that very nicely. Very, very nice. I wanted to invite you, if you have thoughts that you have a question of another panelist, please feel free. I'll take 2 or 3 of those questions so that other panelists can answer questions. So you can cross talk, but I have one more question for Bobby. I'm sorry, I should have asked you that. Bobby, any best practices in the United States that we can, adopt in Jamaica? Any best practices that you want to share with us, or you can think about it and answer after this crosstalk.
Yeah, I think it'll be better to do that in conversation.
Okay.
But there are a number of models that are going on here that are also going on in Jamaica and other places as well. So I think it's better to just bring that up in conversation.
All right.
About best
Great.
practices.
Great. Sounds good. So guys, I welcome you guys to. I'm sure while we were talking and you were talking, there are a couple of questions that we can ask. Where is yes, there you are.
I'm actually, my name's Sharifa. I'm from California, and I am very deeply involved with Jamaica and farming since the first call, when they were calling all Jamaicans from the diaspora to be supportive. But right now, I just want to go ahead and go to the first question. Andre Hewitt stated, very good idea to use digitalization to transform the farming industry in Jamaica to drive linkages between agriculture and tourist industry. This question is for Carrie. Farmers often complain about long payment lines from hotels. Are there any changes to the time it takes for a farmer to get paid?
That's a very good point. And we've heard when we've invested in that linkage between agriculture and tourism, that was one of the sticklers that we found the farmers would complain. I mean, they're small farmers, so they wouldn't have the capacity to provide credit for any extended period. And so there are 2 things started happening. One, if they gave the supplies to the hotels and then had to wait for extended periods for payment, they couldn't plant the next round of crops. So it started making them inefficient. The second thing that happened was that they just started saying, hey, they're in the truck heading towards a hotel, and then somebody local offers to buy it off them with cash. And so the unreliability is compounded because it's a tough ask for them to deliver to the hotel and then and wait 2 months to get paid when they can get the cash in hand right away. So what we decided to do was on the Agro Linkages platform, we partnered with one of the local banks for them to provide a credit facility that they would pay the farmers right away at a small interest on it, and the hotels would then pay Sagicor and they would have their margin on it there. So that's what we did to provide that solution. But ideally, as I said, we would want to get the farmers to, even if they have to form cooperatives, just to get big and get to become a big business so that they can afford to absorb and provide credit to their purchasers. Because that, in first world countries, in big business, that's the name of the game. If you can make it easy for your market to buy from you by providing some credit terms and that kind of thing, then your products will be purchased. So that's one of the things we want to encourage, building up the capacity of the farmers. So stop thinking of ourselves as small farmers all the time. I know it's easy and it's comfortable to just think at 1 acre and your grandfather did it and your great grandfather did it and you stay there. But unless we get farming to be a lucrative industry, a lucrative proposition where the youngster can buy a nice car out of it, the youngster can get a house out of it. We wouldn't have to worry about getting young people interested in farming. If they see their cousin that they went to school with in the community and so on, pulling out with an Audi. By the way, that happened with one of the strawberry farmers. They purchased an Audi this year, that just from 1 year of getting into the strawberry business. But when they see that, trust me, we won't have to be trying to get anybody into farming. They're going to be falling over each other, getting into, and the good thing is that technology now is allowing it so that you don't have to be a big 1,000-acre owner of land in order to get into the game. Precision farming can allow you to start producing volumes and quality and consistency and so on. But again, the best thing is for us as a people to think bigger, to trust each other, to form cooperatives, to form companies where we're all shareholders and so on, so that we can, because otherwise foreigners going to come in and box the bread out of our mouths, you know? And I, being in tourism and seeing it happen in the accommodation sector, because all the hotels that are built now, all the big hotels, the Rios, the Bahia Principes, the Melias, the Moon Palaces and so on, there is enough wealth in Jamaica that if we had collaborated, they could all be Jamaican owned. But I don't know, you know, we're not doing that. And it's a missed opportunity. I don't want to see that happening to farming. I want us to at least try and get there with farming so that we can be big players and we can be exporting as well. We can be agro processing as well. Even JAMPRO would tell you, there was an article in the papers just 2 days ago about the unmet demand that they have for overseas markets for local products. So there's a lot of opportunity.
I'm going to jump in a little bit. I want this also to be very real, okay? And I love you, Kerry, for your explanation and stuff. But there's a big fear in what we in farming, because I've been around the block. I've talked to a lot of persons in diaspora who love farming and want to go home, and they don't have the kind of abilities that that many other persons have to start a big farm and protect it. So the first thing they think about is larceny, theft. The next owner that comes in, you know, and say, boy, you know, may have my gun and me need my food and stuff. I mean, how do you encourage someone to get into something that is really open territory for anybody to come in and do whatever they want and create fear to take what you have? How do you ward off that fear, and how do you get into something? You know, this could be not necessarily you, Kerry, could be for Harris, Richard, or for Terence, who are farmers on the ground, or agro processors on the ground. Tell us what is it? What is the answer? All right, look like Terry walk out and yes, go ahead, Terry.
Yeah. I mean, we tend to think of pre-deal larceny as an agricultural problem, but it's a societal problem. People steal agricultural, they steal everything, but they will steal agricultural produce more so because it's easily accessible. So you know that going in, so you got whatever you're, you got to, whether it's community policing or putting up cameras, there are steps that that you can take. But if you should, from my perspective, if you should look at reasons why you should not do something, you would never do anything.
All right. Excellent. I love that. Richard, you have a response there?
It's easy for him to say that, you know. He has steel structures and armed guards and
trust me, they have
has
come in
drones, and he has all his technology available to him. But the reality, Terence, when I started, first of all, when I left corporate Jamaica and decided to take up farming, I was doing about probably 162 acres of farming. And let me tell you, it drove me to frustration, you know. The 2 foot posting, as we say in Jamaica, you work hard, you this feels like a farmer to put in your sweat, your equity, and then to see someone else reap it. So it is a real issue. So when I started farming, for example, I did all the crops you could think of, sorrel and peppers and you name it, I did it. Because I wanted to immerse myself into the agricultural sector and farming. And then that's what drove us into agro processing, actually, because we decided to give up on the farming because of the theft and decided to look for other products that people will steal. So one of the things was actually doing teas, which is basically growing a soursop tree, a moringa tree, and we are reaping the leaves, not the fruit. Now people go thief the fruit, but they're not going to steal the leaves, right? And so that's what basically drove us into that in that direction, and so we are now actually having now to grow only that which we know that people won't steal. The only thing I know grow on my farm is peppers that people probably would want to steal. But I do other things like I do Cersei. Who will steal Cersei? Right? But Cersei is my biggest selling product worldwide. I don't know people love this bitter thing like this in the diaspora. It's unbelievable, And so that is what it means. And there has to be some more thought going into looking for winners, I suppose, and crops that can become winners for not only to supply the local market, but more for exports. You might want to encourage more smaller farmers, guys, to do, and there's more enough for them to do, domestic for domestic farming. But when it comes to exports, it's a different kettle of fish. You're competing with the world, my brother. You're competing with the world. And we talk about economies of scale. That's just the reality. Mr. Dr. Wallace is telling you exactly as it is. How are you going to compete? You think I've been in exports for almost 6 years now. I've never raised my prices, to the export market. I've never done it. I have to use efficiency. I have to get it from out of efficiency, right? I can't go and put on a shelf and then tell the market and that I have to raise my price because the farmer is raising his. Because there's like a small scale mentality, which means that they want to get rich and buy that Audi off 1 acre of land. They want to buy an Audi and get the palace of their dreams from 1 acre of land. That's not realistic.
Leo,
all right. Thank
Leo,
you. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Also hop in. I also want to just think about this conversation. I think there's also this tension between like rendering this food security and the crises technical or rendering it as a social or economic issue. And I think what we're beginning to understand in ways that how we're going to approach this going forward from our various sectors is that if we're going to, in so many ways, scale up or scale down, however we want to view this food security conversation and producing, we have to empower farmers. What happens is that farmers have to be empowered to do the work that they're doing because, as many people know, farming is hard work, it's painstaking work. Oftentimes you don't get applause, you don't get patted on the back for the work you're doing, and you're literally helping people sidestep death in so many ways in conversations like these. So I think it's important for us to empower farmers, all farmers on scales, but especially local farmers. So if we're going to, in so many ways, encourage people to become farmers or to support farmers, we have to also empower the farmers to continue doing the work they're doing.
When you speak about empower, what are some of the thoughts that you have behind empowerment?
So in ways, so one, uplifting them in ways as in putting farming. So if we want to talk about careers that possibly youth and students go into to possibly make money, we have to show that there's actually a way to make money in farming. And whether it's through scaling up through agro processing, or whether it's through thinking about value chains, or whether it's through creating a regional and local food system that is also keeping food dollars local and also promoting a sustainable living lifestyle. But at the moment, farming is not seen as something that is lucrative. And historically, it's never really been seen as something that's financially lucrative. It's been seen as a type of security that allows you access to other benefits beyond just money. So if we're we have to revise the conversations about farming as a way to empower farmers and put them up against or juxtapose them alongside other careers. But in order to do that, there has to be a shift in how we, in so many ways, compensate
Yeah.
farmers.
I totally agree. There was a discussion a few years ago of us looking at what's the name of the school up in Portland? Help me. No, the agriculture school. Case
College of
Case.
Agriculture.
Right, and there was talk there to actually identify a cohort of students who are leaving because they don't seem to leave Case and go into farming. They go into work for the Ministry of Agriculture and so forth. And so they're thinking of, it was a group of persons in Diaspora were thinking of looking at a cohort of students and providing them with employment opportunities, loans, and say, hey, or get the government to give them some land, and we're going to follow these students for 10 years, make them successful farmers, because we want farming to be the type of opportunity that people see as a business rather than just going out to farm. 1 second, Terence, we're just going to take another. I'm going to take you, Terence, but let me take a couple of questions from the internet. Sharifa.
Okay, the next question is for D. D, the question is, with the community agriculture program that you have, and I think when they're saying D, they mean .net.
Yes.
Okay. Does it have a high participation, or is it just for like a select member community?
No. Hi, thanks for that question. We do have a high participation, and that participation escalated exponentially because of COVID. We have followed a principle from Leah Penniman, who is a Black farmer here also in upstate New York. We rarely find Black farmers. I want more Black people to get back to the earth, you know, get our hands back into the earth and get our souls back into the earth and back into the soil. But we have used the principle from Leah Penniman, who is also a Black farmer. She gives away 1 free share of food for every 3 shares that have been purchased. So within our own community, we're still giving people access to organically produced food, even if they can't afford it. So yes, we have done that. And I had raised my hand in the chat. I just wanted to say, farm to table is bridging that gap between a farm and the table. And you can do that yourself. You can plant a garden. You can pick your own produce. You can support a local community shared agriculture program. You can go to your local farmers market when they reopen. You can empower your youth by educating them. You can give access to land to your youth. You can get more women involved in a very male-dominated work endeavor. Once women are involved,
enough work.
Hey, we take it away. We take it away. So women and development issues, we need more female farmers. We need more young people interested in farming, and not this negative connotation that it's unsexy, or this negative connotation that there isn't money to be made in it. It is hard work, but what isn't hard work? Everything is hard work. Be committed to it. Reconnect yourself to the land from which you came. That land of wood and water is out there for us. Go get it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Any more questions, Sharifa?
Yeah, we have a couple of more. This is a comment from Maxine from Una Mae Gordon. She said, going forward to build Black better agriculture presents great possibilities as a sector with strong labor benefits. We need investments in storage and water management. And then there's a question for Mary. How are things going with the tree distribution in Jamaica versus the other countries like Haiti?
I think Jamaicans understand trees and fruit trees better than any other country that we work in. They love them. Everybody wants a tree. So when we get requests, we get about 3 or 4 requests a day from farmers who want trees. And we prefer to give trees to farmers. Farmers up in the mountains and the hills who are farming different things. They may have grown provisions, but they want other crops. And I see farmers that are what I call agro farmers or agroforesters, where they have tree crops, but they also farm the land. I see it as almost an insurance policy. When climate's bad, weather's bad, drought's bad, you always have a little something to sell. So people are still demanding trees. In fact, I think the demand is up now.
Very, very much. Mary, I let me brag a little bit. Una, I know for a fact that Mary has given us over 7,000 coupons for trees, 7,000 tree coupons already for February through April. And they are going out to farmers right now. So she's doing really, really, really wonderfully. All right. So, and they're mostly breadfruit trees, right, Mary?
Yes, well, anything. Breadfruit's the only tree that can fill your belly.
All right. One last question from, yes. Oh, Mary. Who's that? Not Mary.
Maxine, it's Maxine.
Maxine, go ahead, Maxine.
Yes, if I may, as it relates to the question with water, the question that was asked.
Yes.
As it relates to small farmers, we are struggling with water harvesting. So if it is possible that we could get assistance with some infrastructure put in place to get us more water to farm, yes, we will farm. And on that same note, I want you all to be aware that a community group in our farmers group come together, and we're trying to open a training center that is called Matney Hope Community Skills Training Center. And I don't know if you heard of Nigel Benjamin. He's the producer of all the coleslaw that is we eat at KFC here in Jamaica. He produced the coleslaw. Yes, okay. Nigel Benjamin. He had given us a big space to keep for us to do our training center. So we are basically in the process of trying to get the school on board so we can do the greenhouse farming and a different aspect of agriculture, because we want to see more young people coming on board to do farming. And also we have the Female Alliance group from the Jamaica Diaspora, where we have over 30, near 40 female farmers in this group. Would have had more, but some of these ladies don't have smartphones. So that's why we don't have more in our group. But I know, we have well over 40 going, ladies there. And we are powered up and ready to go. We just need some assistance.
And if persons have any ideas about how to the water harvesting techniques that they can share, so that we can go into the center of Jamaica to help some of these guys, we would be happy to pass this on so we can help. Thank you. Was that the last question, Sharifa?
No, actually, I have not necessarily a question, but I just wanted to, first of all, say thank you for having these talks. It makes it very personal. One of the things that Kimoni wants me to make sure that you guys know that I've been involved with is that we gave out some grant money a few years ago to farmers at Denby. And I have a young lady who was very successful, Patricia Parchman. She's a beekeeper in Westmoreland. And so I think if the diaspora realized that you could just help by supporting one person. I support her financially. I support her with ideas. I support her with supplies from here for her beekeeping. And I've actually gotten some local California beekeepers interested in going to Jamaica, to that area, and doing some trainings. So I just feel like, if you just adopt a farmer, or something that interests you, And also California, it's organic. You know, people want, when they go to a hotel, the first thing I want is some real honey. You know, so I think that we do need to look at, and especially the Black diaspora, we want collard greens. So, you know, let's each of you will be reaching out more. And thank you, Leo, for this, really. And come on, and everybody else.
I know that, I also know that Terence put up his hand earlier. I want to get back to you, Terence. I don't want to forget you because I know that you had something. Terence, go ahead and speak. I'm so sorry about that.
But I think I wanted to piggyback on what you said about the College of Agriculture students.
Oh, yes, yes.
Because you know, I'm a part of an organization called Old Farmers Association of North America, and we are old boys, old girls of the then JSA, which transitioned to College of Agriculture, and now no case.
Right.
So we work with them. We raise money for them. We have built a planticulture lab, which is the largest in Jamaica for the college, and we give a lot of scholarships. But we also mentor these students, and I've seen a shifting in their attitudes. I recall when I graduated from Jamaica School of Agriculture, nobody could tell me to go into farming. It was a foreign concept.
Right.
But I see these young kids coming out now, and some of them are my clients. They come and they have a job, a job, but they start their little farming. They're raising goats. So this young lady that I know, she's raising pigs. Other people are raising little chickens and stuff like that. So I do see the tide changing in that way, and I do see a lot more young people who wouldn't get their hands dirty back, you know, dating myself 40 years ago, are getting their hands dirty now, and they're proud of it. So they are to be commended in that way.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. That's great comments. I'd like, you know, we're wrapping up, so I'm going to ask each person to spend. I forgot about Mr. McDonald. Okay, Stephen. Here comes Stephen McDonald. I know he has some things that he wants to share with us. Go ahead, Steve.
Hey, good afternoon, good evening, guys. I'm also a Manning's old boys too, from Westmoreland, and my contribution is to the whole farming in Jamaica is that I provide a free-to-use platform for to connect buyers and sellers of agricultural produce. So a farmer, I think Richard had spoke earlier about that connectivity. So my platform is called Yard Market. We've been around for about 5 years, a bit over 5 years. And what a farmer can go on, just put on whatever they have for sale, and buyers anywhere in the world will be able to connect to them. We've had a situation where a lady, one of the largest pumpkin farms in Jamaica, had over 100 acres of pumpkin. And through the website, they were able to sell whatever they had. So and again, that connectivity is very important, because someone like Dr. Johnson, who is in Westmoreland doing his farm, who has his farm, someone in Portentona may not know of it, but by him utilizing the Yard Market platform, then you can have that instantaneous connectivity. And you know, we've had with regards to food security, and we've seen this now where, and Dr. Wallace mentioned about moving around the produce with regards to what they were doing and also what RADA was doing. That is one of the greatest challenges, where you have produce in the field, in the country, but in the city, they don't know about it. So it's in this field spoiling, and there's a shortage in the urban markets. So what with Yard Market, we provide that platform, and it's free to use for farmers. They just go on, put what they have for sale, and they're able to connect to the buyers. And also buyers, we've had buyers who've also gone and state what they're looking for. We've had people who've put on teas that they're looking. Richard mentioned teas. People who are looking for moringa, castor oil, and they put it on, and then they're able to connect with farmers in the rural part of Jamaica. So the tools, the tools are there for use. We just need to get more farmers on board because we've had a situation where we're not able to supply the demand. And I think like what Mary is doing is quite important in terms of breadfruit, and also have products that is available all year round. We have avocado coming from Mexico, which you can get all year, but ours is seasonal. Mango is seasonal. So we need to move to that level where our produce for food security is available all year round. And I know that I think Mary has some plants, some specific type that is available all year round, so which is good. So that's my contribution. Thanks guys for putting this on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mr. McDonald. He's in Canada. Good to see you. All right, so to wrap up, we're asking each of the panelists to spend 30 seconds to a minute just to tell us what is it that everyone can do about food security. So I'll take you one at a time. I'll take Terence first. Go ahead, Terence.
Underscore what Steve said about the yard market. I've used that platform and I've generated leads, not just locally in Jamaica, but all across the diaspora. And it's still, I placed this ad a while back, years ago, and I need to place another one because it's still bearing fruits, pardon the pun. As far as one more thing that I wanted to add in terms of goat rearing is that it's very amenable. We talk about plants, growing crops and all of that, but goat farming is very amenable to a mixed farming system. And it's actually, there's synergies between rearing, say, goats and rearing crops, because the feces, the waste from the goats can be used as a fertilizer, especially in this organic age for where we're looking at organic crops for your crops. And the crops that don't make it to market and the plant material can be fed back to the animals. So there's that synergy there, and it's very amenable to a mixed farming system. And that's about what I want to add. And thanks for having me.
All right, man. Mary, go ahead.
What am I thinking about? I'm in awe of all these people. But, I look at Jamaicans who leave Jamaica, and they're among the wealthiest people in wealthiest minority groups in North America. So they have the potential. It's just that in Jamaica, it's hard. It's hard to get the water, as Maxine said. When you're a small farmer, it's hard. And I like the idea of just getting one person to adopt another person, not to adopt them, but just to mentor them, to help them in little ways and uplifting them, because we're where we are because people did that to us. And I think we have the obligation to reach down and give somebody a hand up. So thank you, Leo.
Thank you so much. That's great. Maxine, go ahead.
Okay. We would need better structure agro processing sites. Need for central market in each parish, like the AMC. Easier access to government subsidy and grants. That's it really. I could say more. Establish agro cooperative with farmers, can join forces to supply the needs of hotels and export markets and so on. And more help. Help can't be too much. Thank you for having me, and I'm so happy to be on the show.
Thank you. Richard Harris, thank you. Richard Harris.
Yes, I am also happy to have been on the show and to share this kind of platform with you eminent people. But I want to add one thing, is that when I recognize the amount of crops and that go to waste, like especially fruits that go to waste each year, as Mary said, the song, turn your pot down and all that kind of thing, it's mango time. and then there's a shortage. It's like a glut and thing phenomenon, and it is heartbreaking. And I remember one of the reasons we got into the breadfruit flour and so because of that very same phenomenon that where Mary came and said to us, "Boy, it's really heart-rending to see this fruit, all these fruits coming out, dropping off a tree every season and going to waste." And so I think we could go more into agro processing to somehow be able to have the capacity, because what we use a lot of 40-foot container dryers. That's all automated. And so we're able to have a end product that can have longer shelf life. And so we can help in reducing the waste that goes on in this country. And that also is what helps you to put it into our further process and products that can even be exported and so on.
Thank you.
Provide opportunities for employment. It's a huge industry actually.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Richard. Done it. Thank you so much, Richard. Done it. 30 seconds to a minute.
30 seconds. Plant a garden. Plant a backyard garden. Bet on your own food first. Bet on your own food before you go to the supermarket. Plant a garden, pick your own produce. Secondly, encourage a younger person, encourage women, encourage the youth to get back to the earth, get back to the soil, and to farm. It is where we get our food, and food is the staff of life.
Nice finish. Bobby. Unmute.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I think what can be done now, or building on thinking about what Dee said from Fort Baptist Farm, thinking about encouraging youth and encouraging women and empowering them to become farmers and getting involved in agriculture is extremely important. I think since that we can't move around the world how we usually do, I think it might be important for us to begin to think about virtual exchange programs in so many ways where people can get together on platforms like this to have conversations about best practices. Here in the US, there are a number of cooperatives and educational programs. Real quickly, me personally, the reason how I ended up coming into food systems was because in high school, I had no desire to go into agricultural research until I went to a summer program at Prairie View A&M University around agricultural sciences that was designed to expose teenagers, high school students, to farming programs. And because of that program, a number of us went to Prairie View and went into careers with the USDA or becoming professors and things like that. So for me, I see us taking all of our resources and our assets and leveraging them. And since we can move how we usually move, find other creative ways to exchange knowledge and to support each other, because what's happening in Jamaica is also happening in the US. It's always been a global Black struggle, but now we have more creative ways to galvanize and organize and support the demands of each of our communities. I mean, I think that's one way that we can begin to unravel this food security conversation in the context of COVID-19.
Bobby, are you like 19 years old or 20? I'm here trying to figure your age, man.
No, I'm not 19.
Carrie, take us home. Unmute.
Thank you. What I would like is a graduation of farming from what it used to be to a modern, lucrative business operation. That's what I think will, if we start thinking and moving in that direction, I think a lot of the problems will go away. Let's say the predial larceny problem. I mean, it's the same culture that the hotels operate in. And the big boys just create a model where they provide security and fence around their properties and so on. And the cost of that added security, they pay for it easily because their model with the economies of scale and so on pays for it, and it works. So with the water supplies or whatever, we're not begging the government. When you're a serious player, profitable player, you are demanding of the government. You are lobbying the government for major investments in your area. So I want us to really push. I mean, even some of our social problems in Jamaica will go away if we have that mindset of converting all our operations to first world levels, to the kind of levels where the income that's generated from it and the profits that are generated from it are giving people a good quality of life, just like persons who migrate from Jamaica. Any business they get into where they migrate to, they better make sure it gets them a house and gets them a car to drive around or so on, because the nature of those societies are such that that's a way to survive there.
Yes.
So it's basically it's the first worldization. I'm coining a new word.
Yes.
Of Jamaica. And if we start with agriculture to say, listen, 150,000 small farmers itching out unless we modernize, unless we create collaborations and cooperatives and get into bigger clusters of farms that have the economies of scale and the security protection. From a food security standpoint, it's good to have it spread and everybody have one in their backyard. But from an income generation, from something to sustain and make that family live a good quality of life, I believe we have to start thinking of a business model that makes, I mean, the average income per capita in a first world country is 40,000 US. 40,000 US per person. So every business I think of and we are trying to facilitate in Jamaica, that is in my headspace. I'm not talking about a man surviving, or because if they're still surviving and hustling, you guys still have social problems. I'm talking, they still won't be motivated. Women won't want to get into it. Youngsters won't want to get into it. You know, they've joined the lines at the embassy to try and get out and go into a culture where they can get to that level.
Get that $40,000, right?
Exactly. Yes. So until we have that attitude and start developing all our industries here, and I'm a one that always believes that in abundance. So don't tell me there's too much scarcity and so on. I think the scarcity is our mindset, because we, as a country, we need to start thinking of liberating our people more, not regulating, not keeping them where they are. It's giving them that opportunity to shine. That brilliant person you mentioned, Richard, who came up with that innovative way of providing the solution with the boxes. That person should be earning at least 40,000 US a year. You know, we need to facilitate that more and more and more. And that's what we're doing with the linkages program. That's our attitude towards it, providing modern greenhouses and technical assistance and so on to get them to go way beyond surviving, but to thriving.
Oh my God, thank you so much for that. I think that was a great finish. On behalf of the Jamaica Diaspora Agriculture Task Force, the Jamaica Diaspora Task Force Action Network, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. It was a really, really good discussion. I wish we could go on the whole night, because this is quite enriching for me. Thank you guys. We are going to call on you again. Bobby, make sure that you're ready for when I call you again. All right, and thank Kimon Gooden for organizing this. Kimon was really, really nice job you did there, Kimon. Sharifa, Steve Mcdonald, and all the panelists. Thank you so much, guys, and we will see you again. Thank you for joining. All right.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Same here.
Bye-bye. Thank you.